Hello and welcome to a very, very special episode of Prime Time. I'm extremely delighted, humbled, privileged that today in conversation with me is somebody who is widely and regularly considered one of the top chefs of this country. Radhika Kahndelwal is somebody who's the chef and owner of one of my favorite eateries in this country, Figandmaple in Delhi. And Radhika and her restaurant is something my wife and I have been frequenting for a number of years. And then, of course, when I read up on her and got to know what she's been doing, it's really remarkable. Her efforts in the areas of zero waste, sustainability, farm to fork, all the terms that have been that have become fashionable of late are things that Radhika seems to have been sort of practicing from the very beginning of her culinary journey and career. And I'm very, very grateful to her for having granted me and this very modest platform this interview. So, Radhika, very welcome to the show.
Thank you, Karthik. It's lovely being here.
So, Radhika, let's dive straight in and tell our viewers a little bit about your growing up years. Where were they and what were they like?
So, I actually grew up in Delhi with a very, very busy mother and a father who would also be working all the time. So, it isn't like I'm not like most chefs who will be like, our culinary journey started at 4 when I started cooking in the kitchen. That did not happen to me. However, we did learn how to like fend for ourselves with my mom just perching us on the kitchen counter and making us do all sorts of small things. I think that's where we started learning the art of misapla without knowing that it is misapla.
Yeah.
And something I think is very, very important as you grow up to be someone in the culinary world, even if it's not a chef. I think organization is like the foundation of a kitchen.
Quite
So
right. Okay, and also, I mean, the reason and as you correctly flagged off, the reason I also try and start with my interviews with delving into childhood a little bit is that even if your childhood wasn't necessarily a discovery at that period of what you ended up doing, what were you like as a child? What were your interests, hobbies? How were you like at school? What school did you go to, for example?
I went to DPS Arkipuram, and just like every other child from that school, there was a lot of focus to be really good at academics, and I was, and um, till the 10th standard, I was doing like everything, everyone else mainstream, and then I chose arts. With arts as well, there was pressure to do maths and psychology and economics. So you can't really call it like proper arts, but I did have arts with psych, math, and eco, and I think all of those things actually did come in handy eventually. So yeah,
Okay.
post that I went to Canada for a year to
Mhm.
pursue psychology and transferred to Melbourne, and that's where my culinary journey began.
Now, how did that happen? Tell us a little bit in detail. Also, because whether somebody's discovered their passion early on in life or relatively late. And I keep saying this to all my students when I'm teaching that there's really no expiry date to when you figure out what really floats your boat. So you said that you went to Canada and then you transferred to Melbourne, and I've read this as well that your culinary journey did indeed start in Melbourne. Tell us a little bit more in detail about it. What happened? Was there sort of this eureka moment you had, or what exactly happened?
So it wasn't so fancy. It was actually working to support myself. And from job to job, one day I landed in a kitchen.
Hmm.
And it was just like I belonged. Like it was like everything came together in that one moment, in that one job, in that one day, and I'm just like, this is what I'm meant to do. I started hairdressing alongside my course of psychology, and I still wasn't having as much fun. I knew I was meant for something creative, but I wasn't able to find out what. And when the kitchen happened, it was just like, yeah, a thousand birds started to sing. So I decided that this is it, and that
But
led
can
into.
I quickly jump in here and interrupt you? I'm really sorry to sort of nag you and delve into this a bit further. What were these signals? When you say it all came together, specifically, what were these elements that came together that really sort of spoke to
It
you and appealed to you?
more than anything, it was the organization and the adrenaline.
Okay,
Like all of it was just like, yeah, I'm having fun here. It was fun. Like it did not feel like a job. I did not feel like I should be paid for this even. So it was that good. And that is what actually led into 4 years of intense apprenticeship under multiple chefs. That's how it's done in Melbourne. You can either go and do like a 1 year degree or 2 year degree, or you do a 4 year intensive um, degree. It's a degree again, but
right.
under multiple chefs, and it's mostly all practical, just a little bit of theory, for which
Mhm.
you go and get your TRA.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that it is a certain breed of person that revels in that kind of high pressure cooker situation, who will survive and thrive in that atmosphere? Because it's clearly not for everybody. I mean, like, I'm probably the polar opposite, where I like everything very, very somber and sedate, and I don't like this such high pressure environment. Is that what you revel in? Clearly,
Definitely. Definitely. Like if even now, like if it's a boring day at work, I just don't know what to do with myself. I feel like, am I doing the right thing? And how can I put more pressure on myself to like make this a more productive day? And like, so definitely I do think that there is a certain type of person which fits into the kitchen and thrives there rather.
now, so you did your multiple internships in Melbourne under various chefs, and presumably at several restaurants and eateries. Tell us maybe one really good experience, couple of good experiences, and some challenges that you faced during that period.
Honestly, I know a lot of people expect to like hear about like a lot of challenges. I don't really have any to tell you
Okay,
about. I
fair
mean,
enough.
it was a job. Like it's how you grow in a kitchen. So like if I tell you that I used to cut like 80 kilos of onions every day, that may seem like a big deal to anyone, but it's what everyone goes through in a
Right,
kitchen. That's the process.
right.
uh, and with good experiences, I feel like my one so there was this one restaurant I worked with for. So they had multiple branches, and we would be transferred from branch to branch from time to time. And I feel like when they opened Vibrante in Temple Store was I got to be part of the opening team. And
Okay,
um, so our shift would essentially start at 9 a.m., but my chef used to the chef was the chef and owner as well. So my chef would come in at 6 a.m. So I would also go in at 6 a.m. because I just knew that this is opening time, and uh, like if you don't show up right now, it's you will be the one losing out. And between that 6 to 9 a.m., when there was no one else in the restaurant and just chef doing his work and getting it all together, is when I would learn the most, because it was literally like a classroom session for me. And I feel like that had like a really relevant part in my career. I learned how to do everything myself. So I know that uh, even though I have a really great solid team, no one is indispensable to me, because I've learned the crafts of every department, every process in order to run the restaurant single-handedly.
That's great, and that's obviously a culture that is by and large in the West, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, lots of
Although,
questions.
although, although, just to tell you, this was a 200-seater restaurant, so there is
Oh my
no way
God!
a person could manage alone. But and it was a huge team. It was just that you know when to show up and when you don't.
Lots of questions are coming to my mind. I'm going to try and streamline them. So, in Australia, of course, as a lot of us now know, thanks to MasterChef or having traveled there, you have the hat system, right? In terms of rewarding or recognizing your restaurants, or
Yes,
a double-hatted restaurant or a single-hatted restaurant.
yes.
So, any restaurant in particular that you're very chuffed that you got to work at during that period?
The boat club is one where I worked for during a summer, and
Mhm.
the summer in Australia is actually really short. It's like maybe a month or just over a month,
Mhm.
and that was an amazing place to work at. Not only was it like absolutely stunning, but the food was amazing and the chefs were great, and there was something which they would just like kind of push your creative process even further.
Mhm.
And I think that's really, really important for a senior chef to do when they're in the kitchen with other chefs.
This might sound a bit presumptuous, Radhika, but you have Khandelwal in your name. So were you always a non-vegetarian, or did you become a non-vegetarian? Are your
I've,
folks vegetarian?
I've always been non-vegetarian. My mother is vegetarian. My
Okay.
father was not vegetarian, but now he's vegetarian. And but I don't think he would mind if he eats a little bit of non-vegetarian even now. But yeah, it's been like about 15 years since he converted to vegetarian. But my mom's always been pure vegetarian.
Now, also, Radhika, like I mentioned to you off camera, and when we were trying to orchestrate this interview, essentially, the idea of this series is that a lot of young people watch all these conversations. And so, I want to ask you your point of view on this, Radhika. That let's say there's a young person in high school who has a certain talent and passion for cooking. Would you advise that person, or rather, how important do you feel it is to go and study vis-a-vis working? Let's say, because not everybody has the financial backing or the privilege of going and studying, culinary arts at a good school abroad. So, do you think that where do you weigh in on this whole thing of studying versus just working?
I don't think there's any harm in just working. If you find yourself a good mentor, stick to them. But the most important thing for younger people or people from the next generation who are entering kitchens right now is please show resilience. Like it is, I know that right now at this point of time in our lives and where we are as a world right now, there is importance to mental health day and taking it easy and taking care of yourself and all of those things, but try to find a balance. It's not going to be mental health day every single day. A kitchen does not function like that, unfortunately, and we're
Sure.
trying to change things around, but at the same time, it is what it is. People come in demanding for food. It is a high pressure environment. You will break, you will fix yourself, you have to kind of power on, and you have to just show up to work every single day.
You said that very eloquently, and just to go forward with that, I mean, you seem to have borne the brunt of the pandemic yourself with your first venture, Ivy and Bean. What has the pandemic been like now that it's come up in context?
So I think what it showed us as a business was that you've got to be as flexible as possible. You've got to pivot at the right times. You have to have the first movers advantage for if you're branching out or trying to do something else. And when it's time to let go, you just have to let go. There is nothing else. There's no point holding on to like a lost battle and going on putting in finances into this.
Radhika, what I find amazing about your story is that on the one hand, when the pandemic happens, you obviously hit a wall in terms of your restaurant and your and Ivy and Bean. At the same time, I know that you're preparing hundreds and thousands of meals that you're distributing to people in need. That's an amazing. How do you strike that kind of balance? How do you find it within yourself to do that kind of service when you are a restaurateur yourself who's suffering losses?
So there are a few things I'll tell you about this. And I think it all comes down to who you become in a kitchen and what your personality becomes in a kitchen. And I feel like a good chef is A, disciplined, and B, accountable. And for the first 2 days when we were doing nothing and sitting at home, I felt like I was not a chef, I was not accountable, and I was not disciplined. And I knew we have the resources, like which means I have a big space, a big kitchen, big utensils, and I know that people who are unable to access food. Like everyone knows what India went through as far as the pandemic was concerned. There's no reason for me to highlight it again, but. I knew we have these resources and I have the skill and I can do this. I do know how to cook for like 200, 300 people at the same time. And so I just decided to kind of keep myself accountable, disciplined, and be able to cook every single day. And honestly, like, I think it was one of the best things I ever did to myself during the pandemic because it just kept me so accountable. I knew I have to get out of bed for the sole reason that there are people relying on me.
That's amazing. Okay, that makes so much sense because I feel that not only every human being, but especially people in the arts, and I very much consider chefs artists. And I think all of us have, ought to have this conscience that pricks and forces us or compels us to take certain actions. That's amazing. Now, tell me, when you are starting a restaurant, Radhika, and I've had this conversation with artists, painters, etc. And I think it's very appropriate here as well. When you're starting a restaurant, let's say like Fig and Maple, how do you strike a balance? Is it a chef-owned restaurant? Is it that okay? Listen, I'm just going to cook what I feel like cooking, or is there a balance that you try and strike between okay, this is what the market might need, or there's a gap, or any of those things? Are those considerations at all, or you're just like, listen, this is my baby, I'm going to cook the food I love and it'll hopefully find its own audience?
Yeah, except that you don't hope, you just kind of know.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're just like, I know people have not tasted these flavors. They need to eat this. I need to like push forward the so and so farmers, so and so produce. And as a chef, you have like I feel like you have a responsibility towards farmers and in order to highlight their produce or even towards, I would say, the planet where you can advocate for even something as simple as biodiversity and by making an ingredient stand out in a dish and an ingredient which is possibly not known to the regular public and if you're able to do that in a good way you know that people are going to go back home and try to cook that whatever X ingredient and Fig and Maple started was actually supposed to be a very atelier concept where one would get produce and cook with it every day but then it just turned out to be a much bigger space than what I'd anticipated it to be as a concept. But yeah, but we still stuck to what we wanted to do as far as the menu, the local produce, the seasonal produce, and everything was concerned. And um, I think it was very, very well accepted by the people of Delhi, and I'm quite thrilled about that, honestly. But because it is scary to bring about an absolutely new concept into a city which which does reject stuff quite easily, and
Hmm.
it's in fact going to be 5 years of Fig and Maple in January, and I think that because we've come so far, we will go further. And I'm just happy that Delhi was so reciprocative towards a concept like fig, because we still don't have a cuisine, right? Like when people say, "What cuisine are you?" We don't have one. We are an ingredient focused space, and we work with what we have. However, we do try to bring about forgotten flavors from the entire subcontinent, and we try to highlight those.
Without getting into obviously too much detail, when you have what is your business model like, or generally in terms of chef-owned restaurants, does all the financing come from and organized by the chef himself or herself, or do you have an investor?
I don't have an investor.
Okay,
We took a loan for Fig and Maple, and um, I think because we had a good track record with Ivy and Bean, we were very easily granted that loan, which was paid off in the first year itself. So
that's
that
wonderful.
is, yeah. So we didn't really. I mean, like I don't really like the concept of investors too much, because I mean, again, like you said, chefs are artists, and if you try to interfere with an artist's work, it's not always going to go down well.
Yeah. Okay. And now, how easy or difficult has it been to be food sustainable, farm to fork, etc., in India in your own kitchens?
I don't know why it should be difficult.
Hmm.
I mean, like, we are like literally an agricultural forward country, and it should actually just be the easiest thing. And I feel like once you make a network of farmers, it's it's just like anything else. It's just like a well-oiled machinery. You get your stuff from the farmer, you create a menu, you put it on the menu, people come and eat it. It's literally as simple as that.
When you came back from, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping back and forth. I don't like pre-preparing questions for these interviews. I like them to be just natural. When you came back from Australia, did you work at that point in India as well, or was it just starting your own place?
No, I'd already been in Australia for 8 years before I
Ah,
came back. So after my apprenticeship, I worked in Australia, came back here, and uh, got the ball rolling. It took me a fair amount of time to open Ivy and Bean after moving back from Australia. I just didn't know better.
who would you regard as some of your mentors? I mean, give us a few names.
Chef Sadhu would be one of my mentors. He's based in Melbourne, and I think he's my one and only mentor, really.
Okay. And what does he run? What is Tell us a little bit about him.
He runs three restaurants: Pescare, Paisano, and Vibrante, and he's just an ace chef, and he knows how to mentor and teach younger chefs and like take them under his wing. And there's like there's a feeling of being lifted up by your mentor, which he easily like does.
Just to add a little bit of humor to this conversation, but I've always been curious about this. What is the deal with tattoos and smoking and chefs?
Well, I like tattoos because like it's just color, and it's just makes you like I don't know. It's just something which I like, and it's like it's stuff which you don't mind seeing every single day, right? Like, as chefs anyway, you're going to see the same thing every single day of your life, and I think it kind of becomes part of your body as well. Smoking, I think high pressure environment, stressed out, you just like, and it's your only chance to take that 5 minute break, because there is always rush to mesa, rush to clean up, rush to cook, rush to rush for service, and it's like your 5 minutes of peace. So I think that's what it is.
Do you think Indian kitchens are as hectic and frenetic as ones abroad?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think you can like put a chef in a kitchen anywhere, and it's just the same.
Okay. Do you find it difficult to identify and hire good people onto your team? That's one part of the question, and the other part is what does somebody have to do to find an internship with Radhika?
My team has been the same since I've moved back.
Oh, okay,
So, I have not found it very difficult to uh, keep them or sustain or change or anything. I think the most important is growth.
hmm,
So if you're joining me as a UT or a KST or even a commie or even a sous chef, then it becomes my responsibility to grow myself so that you can grow. And if it's going to be the same forever, then it's really not worth it, is it? Like, so in my kitchen, who used to be a KST is now at a commie level. A commie is now a CDP, and so on and so forth. And I'm trying to kind of like pull away from the kitchen now and move on and find another project. But so that my sous chef can be head chef.
sure,
So
sure. And you are involved in a lot of things from the United Nations to representing India at various fora abroad. When you say move on, do you mean a bunch of those kinds of pursuits or possibly also another food venture?
hopefully another food venture. I think I was ready 2 years ago, but then the pandemic hit. But I'm going to start looking again now, and hopefully there will be Figandmaple Part 2 or something else coming in the pipeline soon.
Last couple of questions, I promise. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Your partner, your husband, and you work together.
Yes.
Um, what is that dynamic like? And I ask you this because my wife and I work together, and we're a writing team. And sometimes it's disastrous, and sometimes it's absolutely wonderful.
So it isn't like that for us. It's his role in the organization is very different from mine. So
Okay,
it's like I can't function without his role. He can't function without my role. So it is interdependent, but it is absolutely different. So there are days where we won't even like have a chance to interact at work
okay, got
because he will look after the bar, the admin, and all the paperwork, and
it.
I will
Okay,
look at the kitchen. So but what is difficult is your personal life then, because then all you talk about is work.
sure.
And yeah, nothing
And
more.
is that something that's been the case from the time you guys got together, or was he doing something else and then joined you?
No, he was in the kitchen first. Uh,
Okay,
yeah, and he's actually also been a major influence as far as my career is concerned, because he was not very good and I was very competitive. So I think that it just made me better.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Great. And now, finally, Radhika, what advice? I know this is a very broad, generic question that I have to ask all my guests. What advice to young people who, not even if it's not necessarily culinary arts, but who are just about discovering their passions in life? What advice would you have to them in terms of finding the courage to convert those passions into lifelong pursuits?
Start part time.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's very
Don't
practical advice.
don't deep dive into it if you're not sure. You may not like it. Second, if you know for sure, please show resilience and stick on. Please stick on. Like, it's just the most important thing, to just show up. And um, with the culinary arts, it is going to get repetitive, but it is going to get better once you are better. And you can't judge when you are better. We judge when you're better.
Great. Yeah, that's actually very, very practical advice. And of course, the part about resilience is something that a lot of, very well established experts from various sectors and facets, spaces of life and work have told me earlier. Great. Wonderful. Listen, it's been lovely chatting. Thank you for making the time. Anuja and I can't wait to visit Delhi again and to be at Fig and Maple. That's a permanent spot for us on our visits.
Please
More
come,
power to
have a
you.
little menu, and I think you'll enjoy it.
I have no doubt about that. More power to you. All the best with your new ventures. And
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.